You. Can you guys hear me? Is this good? All right, okay, good. Hi, I'm John Keefe. I am a bot developer and a product manager at Quartz, which is QZ.com, and we are a news and financial website covering the global economy, and Quartz has a long innovation of being incredibly innovative, and so I was really fortunate to join there in March. My route to having developer in my title is kind of interesting. I actually was a producer, reporter, journalist. I was the news director for a long time at WNYC, New York Public Radio. And while I was there, I saw what was happening at the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the LA Times, where they were using data in these new ways, where it wasn't just about using data to pursue a story, but actually putting maps and charts and actual databases online for the audience to look at. And I thought, that is amazing. I want to do that. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to learn how to code. So I started tinkering. I was the news director at the time. It was not in my job description to be coding. So I would do it at home on my couch. And one August of 2011, I was trying to do this thing you may have seen where you can put in an address into a box and it drops a pin on a map, right? We're all very familiar with that. Well, I wanted to figure out how to do that. I was trying to learn JavaScript. And so in the process of doing this, I coded up this little map right here. This is a map of Manhattan, and these actually are hurricane evacuation zones. So I had run across this shapefile, thought, oh, that would be useful. Maybe if there's ever flooding or a hurricane or something like that, that the reporters in the newsroom would find this useful. Wow, I could use fusion tables and some JavaScript, and I made a little box, and you could put your address in and drop your pin in the middle of the map, and that was cute. I showed it to two people, one person at work and one person at home. They were like, cute, John, cute. And then, strange enough, that was in the summer. About 6 weeks later, a hurricane started heading for New York City. It was Hurricane Irene. And then, so I was like, hey, I actually have a hurricane evacuation map on my computer. Maybe that would be useful. So the folks at WNYC put it up on S3, so it was nice and stable and secure. And it's just JavaScript, so it was sitting there by itself. And then the next day, the mayor declared that Zone A, which is this orange area, later maps were much more brightly colored. This was not my best map ever. But this orange area was evacuated. So everybody went to nyc.gov to go see if they were in the evacuation zone and crashed the site. In fact, the city's site was down for a day. And the only map on the entire internet that had any of this information was the one I made on my couch. So this got 1 million page views in just a couple of days, which is more than the site as a whole used to get in a month. They were like, hey, could you keep doing that? That was pretty cool. So I said, sure, all we'll need is another hurricane. Of course, then next year Hurricane Sandy came, so this became my new job. So in the course, I actually, thanks to generous people in the journalism coding community, generous people like yourselves who put their code online, I ended up learning how to do this, and now I actually have developer in my title, which is kind of amazing, and I'm sort of tickled by that. So at Quartz, we're looking at bots, and we're looking at basically 4 areas. So when we're talking about bots, there's a lot of definitions for that, but we talk about software that you can talk with. So that may be in a chat format where you're texting or you're using a chat interface, typing. That may be in speaking actually to something like Amazon Alexa or Google Home. And then we're also looking at the artificial intelligence and other issues behind not only these things that we can power these things with, but also to help journalists do their jobs better. And then lastly, we're looking at making tools for journalists to do their jobs better. Some of them with AI, some of them not. And so this is what I'm going to breeze through here and tell you about how we're doing this, all in the Quartz bot studio. So there are 2 people at Quartz with bot in their title. One of them is me. One of them is Emily Withrow. She's the bot editor. But everybody else at Quartz is sort of bot adjacent. Everybody has ideas for bots. There are other people who code bots. And so we'll talk about some of those folks too. So in terms of chat, then the text interface, the Quartz app is actually something that is it's not your typical news app. So this is actually the Quartz app. This is actually a little video. Here, I'll start it. Is it gonna go? There. This is how the Quartz app looks. It's sort of this chat interface. This is actually how we handled earnings reports. So we use emoji, we use this little chat interface. This is not your typical news site. About a year ago, Quartz decided this is a more interesting and sort of a breezy, quick way to present the news to people. And so this is one fun example. Each one of these earnings reports, represented by emoji and some clever writing, is linked to, and so you can go read more about it, but you could also just get it very quickly in a quick scan. So this sort of chat interface is something that we're pretty familiar with. And as a sidelight, we just recently, with the iOS 11, added Augmented Reality to this chat interface. So here's our chat interface, and you can click on some news objects, and this is the roof of Quartz, which is 2 blocks that way. So we're probably looking at this building, actually, here. So this is Cassini represented in AR on the roof of our building. We're integrating that into the app, and I just put that up here because it's really cool, and we just did it. It's not AI or chat, but it's something we're adding. We're also playing a lot with Twitter and looking at how we can do journalism on Twitter. You may have, everybody remember this attack. We had this ransomware attack happened, and the WannaCry virus, and it attacked computers and locked them down, encrypted them unless you paid in Bitcoin to unlock your computer. Everybody remember this happening? Okay, so interestingly, you may have seen this. So Bitcoin wallets, they're public, you can see them. So you could see when people were paying the ransom, right? So there were 3 Bitcoin wallets, and Keith Collins, who's a computer programmer / journalist at Quartz, created a Twitter bot that would watch these 3 wallets and tweet out how much money had been put into these wallets and convert them into dollars. So here's an example. At this point, $142,000 had been paid in ransom. So this bot was just tweeting out, got a little bit of a following among people who are interested in the story, people who are affected by it, and also people who are into cryptocurrency. One of the cool things he also did here, though, was he coded it so it would also tweet if somebody took the money out. So who could take the money out? Just the criminals, right? Just the people holding ransom. So there was some speculation that that might not actually happen, that these guys didn't realize what they're getting into, and that they might not ever withdraw any money, except that at about 11 o'clock one night, they did. They took out $20,000, and they proceeded to continue to take money. So we were watching in real time these people who were holding all these computers ransom, taking their money out of these accounts. So the bot actually broke the news. This was the first word that this had happened. We might not, I don't even think we had the first story up, but we had the first tweet up for sure. So that was a way we're applying Twitter bots to do journalism. And Keith has been doing that a lot at Quartz. It's really exciting. We're playing a lot also with Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is a sort of a ubiquitous platform. You probably use it in one form or another. So we're looking at how news might fit into Facebook Messenger. A lot of news organizations. Okay, my Echo Dot won't be available apparently for my demo, so we'll see what's going on. That was Alexa speaking to me. So a lot of news organizations are putting their material in Facebook Messenger. We are actually more inspired to not just put our stories in Facebook Messenger, but find ways to use Messenger and use a chat platform to do more chatty things. So you may have seen Pancho. This is not ours. This is done by BetaWorks. But this is a good example, right? So you can get your weather anywhere, right? But here's Pancho. Pancho is a weather bot. And if you ask for the weather, Pancho gives you the weather, and it's very, very straightforward, sure. But the other thing you can do is, first of all, the weather comes along with some sort of attitude, which happens. But there's also, if you just happen to type, here's a weather bot, you type, I'm hungry, and suddenly Pancho says, oh, you're hungry? What are you going to do about it? Order takeout or make a recipe. Okay, I'll make a recipe. And it says, step into my kitchen. Okay, just kidding, I always wanted to say that, preferably on my own TV show. So you get this sort of sense it's got a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of spunk. So we're gonna guac you through this guacamole recipe, and it's all about squishing it in your hands and licking the guacamole off your hands. It's playful, it's fun, and it's something that you don't get from your normal weather app. So this kind of a personality, this sort of using the conversational interface, is something that we've been exploring. And we are also very soon launching a edition of Quartz called Quartzy, which is much more of a lifestyle brand. And ahead of that, we've launched the Quartzy page, and we have a bot attached to it. So if you either go to the Quartzy page and click message, or you go to messenger.com/QZY for Quartzy, you can get the bot. And the bot right now is all things Stranger Things. Anybody Stranger Things fans in here? Hands up, Stranger Things. Okay, couple of folks. Okay, not enough. Y'all have to get in. So Stranger Things, as 8 of you know, just dropped their second season on Friday. So this is at Netflix. And so we decided to hook into that as an experiment, right? A lot of this stuff we're doing is all experimental. So here, you can go into messenger.com/QZY. You can do this now. And you get into the conversation. And you can recap season 1, or you can talk season 2. Emily Withrow, our bot editor, is furiously watching all of season 2 right now and making new sort of experiences to go along with you. And the idea is that you can come back to the bot, and the bot can remind you to come back to, and you can sort of learn along with the bot and not go past where you are in the season, right? So no spoilers. And the idea is that it becomes another companion to the show. And since this is all about code, I'll tell you a little bit about how we're doing this. We're writing this in a language called Reve Script. How many of you have heard of Reve Script? 1. Okay, yeah, I hadn't either. Okay, so Reve Script is a bot scripting language. And actually, you can see this is actually the section that is running this one. So up top, the human, me, said sure to a previous question. And you can see then the answer is the minus sign with the little party hat. And then the intro comes in, and these buttons come in. And so we code it all. And Emily actually writes the entire bot experiment in this way. Using these little pluses and minuses, and routing different paths through the script. We chose this method because, unlike the point-and-click bot constructors that you can get, there are a lot of authoring tools out there. This one it's actually close to code. It is code in a way, and it's very writer-based. And so much of what we're doing is writing scripts and these experiences. So it's not just a FAQ where you could sort of set it and forget it. We're actually doing something new pretty much every week. And Emily is doing something new every day. She's doing an episode a day until she gets through season 2. So that's happening right now. So our sort of stack, in a sense, or flow, is Emily's brain. She's got all she's watching the shows and coming up with the ideas. We write it in Reve Script. Reve Script, we put those text files onto Dexter. Dexter is an authoring tool out of BetaWorks, just down the road a little bit. And we've decided to use them as our bot authoring tool, mainly because of what I was saying about the writer-based. but we also looked at about 24 different authoring tools, and that's the one we decided to pick. We use Dialogflow, which used to be called, until like a week ago, API.ai. So if you go looking for API.ai, you won't find it anymore. It's now Dialogflow. And we use that for some of the natural language processing. So like here, if I say, what's up, it responds not much, but also what is upside down. And 8 of you will understand that joke. Back to where I was, and you can get back into this script. So we're using natural language processing to watch for when people need help, when they say silly things, because humans like to say silly things to bots. All right, so voice interfaces, we have Alexa. I'm actually going to skip over Alexa. How many of you have played with Alexa or know Alexa, right? Okay. So we think that there are, Alexa's pretty easy or more straightforward than some of the others to code, so we're playing a lot with it. We've experimented with quizzes and presenting news. Our flash briefing is our news offering, and that comes across Alexa. I personally have 2 kids at home. They use Alexa. If you see kids using Alexa, there's no friction in how they make it work. They got it. And it's very clear to me that this generation will not have any problem talking to devices for the rest of their lives. So we're pretty convinced that we need to figure out how news organizations can fit into these kinds of platforms. A little bit about the AI that we're playing with. So this is a bot that we made. You know this kind of sport of finding Trump tweets from history to be ironic about present-day Trump tweets? We sort of made a bot that kind of does that. Irony is hard to code for, so if any of you are doing that, good on you. But what we were able to do is use AI and processing of the tweets using a little program called Tweet2Vec, so turning tweets into vectors. So we can actually look for similar tweets from before he was president. So that's what this does. Every time Trump tweets, it goes out and finds the most similar tweet from before he was president. Sometimes it works really, really well. So this is from June 11th of this year. My daughter Ivanka will be on Fox and Friends tomorrow morning. Enjoy. Lined up very closely to one from 2013. My wife Melania will be on QVC today at about 5 p.m. selling really beautiful jewelry at a very low price. Okay, so it worked. Sometimes it's hit and miss. It did actually notice that the Miami Heat were in Miami without even sort of knowing or seeing the word Miami, so it does pretty well. There's more useful things that AI can be used for. ProPublica just released this last week, I believe, where they went through tens of thousands of press releases from members of Congress to determine, using language processing and similarity detection, what Congress people were interested in. So here in New York, we have Kirsten Gillibrand. She's a New York senator. And what she is most interested in that is unique to her, so it's not just, I'm interested in education. She's interested in these items, and other people are less interested in them. So we have firefighter grant, fire department, contained breathing. What's that about? Anybody know? Why would she be interested in those things? Well, she was a big proponent and pushed through a lot of the legislation around first responders and care for the 9/11 responders. So that popped out. The AI was able to detect that. This can be very useful for reporters. This happens to be a public thing, but it's a way that AI can be useful for journalism. I only have a couple minutes, so I just want to say we use Slack a lot. How many people use Slack? Okay, everybody, right, all right. Same in journalism. Some fields, not so much. And I'll just say real quick that we have developed with an organization called Document Cloud a thing called Quackbot, which is a tool for journalists that allows journalists to ask the bot to do very common things. It also has natural language processing in it, so you can say, how are you today? But it goes out and it can get data, it can grab screenshots, it can do a lot of the things that journalists do. It's this very sort of industry-specific Slack bot. And we built this, we used Amazon Lambda to actually keep making new skills for this bot. We have a really interesting thing in journalism where the open source community is really strong in journalism, but the number of developers in newsrooms can be pretty small, and a lot of newsrooms don't have them. So we're looking at ways to use this little stack using Lambda functions to put tools that are already sort of out there in the wild that might be hard for a newsroom to implement because they don't have a developer, put them into Quackbot so that people can just add Quackbot to their Slack team and then ask the bot to do it for them. So that's one of the things that we're doing. You can read more about this. This project is open source, so you can see how we're building it. And you can read all about what we're doing at bots.qz.com. So this entire project has been funded by a grant from the Knight Foundation. And so part of that means that we're sharing everything too. So you can see our code, see what we're doing. Go ahead and use our code. That's awesome. And here are a bunch of links. If you want to take a picture or something, there you go. But you can sign up for Quackbot if you're at a journalistic organization. Otherwise, just take our code. There's this Stranger Things bot. Bots.qz.com is our blog. Bots.qz.com is our email. And that's me. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. For the analysis? You mean like for... Oh, so all the NLP right now, we're using API.ai/Dialogflow. So every time that a journalist or in a messenger app says something that isn't immediately clear, we send it out to the Dialogflow. I'll get used to that eventually. And it comes back with an intent, and then we handle it that way. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Yeah.
You were talking about using
for the messenger bot.
So when you were developing it, did you believe other platforms that could help us
Yes. So we looked at 25 different authoring engines, different platforms, and when I say we, I mean my colleagues. I wasn't part of that project. They went through a lot of work. We actually had a script about Beyonce that we applied to each of the different authoring tools to see which one worked best for us. In the end, we chose Dexter, but at bots.qz.com, we talk a little bit more about some of the other bot platforms that we liked but didn't fit for our purposes. So you can check it out there.
One more question.
Uh-huh. Yep.
How did it encounter the behavior aspect of it?
How did it encounter the behavior? So how do we know?
I'll give you an example. I saw in one of the other Quartz presentation, if somebody says, oh my God, on the other side, it can be evaluated as positive talking about your product or the other side.
So what we do is anything that doesn't get caught. So we have a bunch of keywords and that you might say in the course of talking about Stranger Things. And anything that doesn't get caught by the bot script, we have a catch-all, and we send that whole phrase out to Dialogflow, and it comes back. Depending on what they say, we tailor that. We use the intent that we get back from Dialogflow, and then route the question or the answer accordingly. If we get into the situation where it's not matching exactly, like somebody's saying something, like for example, there's a character in Stranger Things named 11. 11 comes back as like a number. So we have to go in and tweak on the Dialogflow side. We can retrain the model so it will recognize other things. So we do that a fair amount. Also, it's not really set up for emoji reaction right now, so we've had to go in and teach it a whole bunch of emoji reactions, and that this is yes, this is no. So that's how we're doing it. So between the Reve Script answers and the training the model on the dialogue flow side, we try to do our best, the best we can. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about what's the biggest challenge you have in running these mass projects?
So the biggest challenge right now, I think, is sort of exactly what we were just talking about. You never really know what a human is going to do. And a lot of people actually like to go into these experiences and just mess with your bot, and that's totally understandable. I think we are looking at the complexity of handling these kinds of things. Like, how do you make sure if somebody says, I'm ready, but really what they're responding to was a Stranger Things question and not like some other adventure question. And so really tracking what people have done and using that as a context for what they mean next is probably the biggest challenge. We may have to put in some machine learning to help solve some of that, but right now we're just doing our best guesses based on when and where they say ready.
I have a follow-up question. So, why are you running all these different mass projects? Are they just doing for fun, or is this are you trying to some sort of objective to hit?
Yes. They are fun, and that is actually it's something that I've been a real proponent of. I actually have spent a year trying to make something new every week. I got sort of 2/3 through the year, but I really see the value of experimenting and playing in a very sort of public way, like publishing this out and sharing it out. So we're doing that. At the same time, we learn every day, like with some of these experiments. So what you are seeing here have sort of made it out of the house. So they're better than, they show some level of potential, right? So the Stranger Things bot is an experiment, 100% experiment, but it's a really high quality experiment, and we're learning a lot from it. So we can see where people get stuck. We can see, is this the kind of thing that anybody would do? Would there be other uses for it? So partly, we're just trying to be a place that is on the cutting edge in these kinds of experiments and sharing that out. So now Quartz it does that. At the same time, we are learning every day, and always, I'm on the product team, so we are looking at how we might make products. Things like our other products, like our app and our Alexa newscast, are supported by advertising. So we do sell ads. We're a commercial website. So we look at that. We're not selling ads in the Stranger Things bot right now, but what we're learning right now through being able to make these conversational interfaces could become a money-making endeavor at some point. My pleasure. Thank you.